Now, a recent study by the Forbes of the top paid athletes between 2010 and 2019 revealed the following. Tiger Woods took home a total of $105 million US, followed by Floyd Mayweather with the 65 million US dollars. Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant, took home 48 million US dollars, followed by Phil Mickelson, 46 million US dollars, and then David Beckham took home 43.7 million US dollars. Compared to their female compatriots, that is Maria Sharapova took home 24.5 million USD. Serena Williams, the biggest tennis player in the world, took home 20.2 million. Venus Williams took home 15.4 million US dollars, and Danica Patrica took home 12 million. Finally, Kim Yuna took home 9.7 million US dollars. In 2010 and between the male counterpart and the women counterpart, there was a difference of almost a double in terms of the prize money that each and every one of them took home. I've not even mentioned the amount of money that the top paid athletes took home. That is, Lionel Messi took home 127 million US dollars, while Serena Williams, who was the top paid athlete, female athlete in 2019, took home 29.2 million US dollars. A big difference in terms of what they are paid, considering how much they are bringing to the sport. Fran, the question now that probably people could be asking is, are we ever going to get to that point where this whole conversation is going to be a thing of the past? Because the difference, as it shows in the data that I've just read, is quite huge.
I think you're quite correct. It is still huge, but I think that as we progress, women are becoming much more vocal, demanding that they be treated equally. And I think, you know, if you look at Serena Williams, for instance, playing tennis, and Djokovic playing tennis, they're putting in the same effort, they're putting in the same hours, they're putting in this, if Lionel Messi and Marta, the Brazilian, they're putting in the same. So why should they not be paid equally? And I think slowly but surely this will have to change, because women are becoming more vocal. If you look at the Japanese tennis player who's now withdrawn from various things, women are putting their foot down and saying, hang on, we want to be treated equally, and that's how it should be.
Okay, maybe you could paint a picture for us, because when we're talking about this whole conversation, mainly we talk about the World Cup that is in 2019, where Megan Rapinoe came out openly and said, you know what, we need to be equally paid. Maybe you can paint a picture for us of the situation in South Africa in terms of what are some of the things that are probably what are some of the progress that is taking place in South Africa towards achieving equal pay in women in sports?
Well, it's still a big step, but fortunately for us, the women, when the team went to the World Cup, were given equal allowances and good bonuses. So that's definitely, it's starting to change. And the fact that the women now on TV every week, we have many of 90 playing professional football overseas, it's putting pressure on football here to start recognizing women on equal terms. So there's still a long way to go. We can't fool ourselves, but we have to start making progress, and it's something that all women need to be demanding as the sports grow. All the different sports, that we want equality. Nothing different, we just want our fair share for equal work and equal effort.
Okay. Mikhala, I will be interested in understanding how has this whole conversation of equal pay within the bodybuilding space in Kenya been taken. I'm pretty sure there's been a lot of opposition to this whole issue.
Interesting, you should ask that. I just had this conversation with my bodybuilding people less than a month ago. And it's the whole argument where athletes were boycotting, participating in bodybuilding competitions and strongman competitions. The men did not take it very, very well, I must say. Sometimes we as women, you mention something, you get insulted on social media, someone is like, no, your category is not even that important to the sport, so you don't even need to be raising an issue about it. I'm just happy that there's a lady that participates in strongest man competitions. It's called Olive Stone, and she has refused to participate in any competition that does not give her the same, if not really close prize money to what the men are getting. I feel like, well, that's a stand, and it's a good stand, but my advice to my athletes has always been, push for an inch. No, you know how an inch looks like. You guys know how an inch looks like. We're pushing inch by inch, and trying to get there. So I keep telling athletes, go, participate, compete. You don't even reject the prize money, but go home with the title. But we keep pushing the conversation. So the bodybuilding and strongest man communities, the organizers are to be on board. They are really trying to understand women, but we are not yet there. We're still struggling.
Okay. Fran, just before I get back to Mikhala on a subject that she's mentioned there, I think you were working on the technical team at CAF, and that's like the biggest sporting body in Africa. Maybe you could paint a picture for us in terms of some of the things that CAF is probably doing to support women in sport in line with this direction of equal pay.
Well, I think a big factor is participation. I think the more that women are out there participating in their sports in the African arena and in the world arena, like now at the Olympics, I mean, the athletes from Jamaica and really the women have just put themselves out there, is going to attract sponsors, attract recognition. And I think a big thing that CAF has done for the first time, I've been waiting for this my whole life in African football, is they've started this year the African Women Champions League. Top team in each of the African countries is coming to play in a playoff to find the best women's teams in Africa, which will then compete in the FIFA World Championship. So, for instance, now at the end of this month, CASAFA, the Southern African countries, the teams are coming here to South Africa, Kenya and Zambia, and for all the best teams in every country are coming here to play. And all of this will be televised. So this is where women will be out on the TV platforms. So CAF is definitely, that's a huge step forward for women's football, is for the first time ever to have the best teams in Africa competing against each other, like the Men's Champions League that happened recently. The attention, the coverage, the viewership is what we need. We need TV, we need to have women's sports, women out there being seen and heard.
Okay. But the challenge probably in terms of viewership, I think I've had a conversation with some of my friends, and probably the perception that they probably say is that the reason probably they don't watch women football, or they don't watch most, if not at all, is the fact they say that some of it is not as interesting as compared to their male counterparts. How do you think we can change that perception? Because the reality is that now activities, say you've mentioned the Women's Champions League, these are things that are now coming to the TV. As people who have such platforms at this, how can we change that perception, and why is it important, I beg your pardon, for people to change their perception in terms of women sporting activities?
Well, I think that's a mindset that men have had, that women must stay at home and cook and look after the family. And I think that in recent times, the level of excellence the women have shown, I mean, just looking now at the Olympics, which is shown all over on Supersport, it's all over the world. If you look at the women, they're participating in all the sports categories. the excellence is irrefutable, and any man who doesn't think that the women are performing at the highest level, they need to change that perception because it's wrong. And the more that women are putting themselves out there, being in competition, being on TV, that thinking has got to change because it's wrong and it's unfair. And there are brilliant women athletes, and they need to be acknowledged, not only by men, but our sponsors. Sponsors need to come forward and support the women athletes as they do the men.
Okay. Mikhala, it takes much more than just boycotting an activity to reinforce the fact that I am supposed to be paid equally, or I'm supposed to be compensated appropriately in a tournament. What are some of the other ways that people can rally around such initiatives, especially around Kenya, to see that we continue this conversation?
Now, I'm going to talk about my sport and strongest man because those are the two sports that I'm very conversant about. When you look at bodybuilding in 2016, we were at a place where even our judging tables were all occupied by just men. So how do you expect a panel of male organizers to understand that a woman deserves just as much money as the males? Yeah. And this is me beating the drum for myself. Yeah. From that time, I decided if there's a local competition that is not by the National Federation, I am going to knock that door to either volunteer as a judge or as an usher or be as part of the organizing team, because then you can be able to talk to the men and tell them, hey, look here, sir, this is what women deserve, this is what women expect, this is what women want. My thought process has always been include women in all the decision-making tables. You can't sit as 4 men on a table, even if you have 1 woman, and say, okay, so men will get 100,000, women will get 20,000. Of course, the 4 voices of the men will overpower the women. You'd rather do the 2/3. Have 6 people, let 2 of them be women, ask them about their opinion. And that's the other thing. People never ask. For me, I don't wait to be asked. I'll give you my opinion either way. But people get what do women want? What do women deserve? What do you think woman A and B needs? I think that is one of the things. The second thing is, I'm just going to agree with Fran. The way she said, show up and compete and compete and compete until people can no longer ignore you. If people see you long enough on the stage, they will know what you deserve. So if you have someone on the table rooting for you and you're on stage, always competing, on the pitch, whichever, on the track, always competing and always showing up, something has got to give. You are going to wear someone down eventually.
Okay. Fran, probably as we complete this conversation, this whole conversation is not only a one-directional conversation. There is different facets to it. There is stakeholders, there are organizers, there are federations, and there are the athletes themselves. From your experience working in the field for the longest time, I just wanted to, as we wrap up, probably how athletes can rally together and push this conversation, and probably some of the ways that other stakeholders within the same sporting industry can rally together to push this conversation across.
Well, I want to add on what Mikhala just said, which she raised a very important point. What I've tried to do over the years, and I've impressed this and done it at CAF and at CASAFA, is that we need to develop the people around the athlete. So, for instance, we have a CASAFA leadership course going on at the moment where we're developing women leaders in administration to take up these seats at the table that Mikhala is talking about. We have a CAF instructors forum where we've developed women coaches for football, and we're pushing for those women to be involved in the national teams. For instance, in South Africa, we have 27 women with the highest coaching qualification in Africa, and all our national teams football are coached by women. And because they are at the same or higher level than the men, we can say, sorry, we want our women, they qualified, more qualified. So the team around the athlete has to be developed as well. Women in all the fields, coaching, administration, refereeing, whatever, to ensure that they at those decision-making platforms to push for the athletes. That's the crucial point. Politicians, whatever, must be women.
Okay. Probably, Mikhala, as we are finishing this conversation, your 2 cents, maybe there's somebody who's watching you, wants to be part of this conversation, or he's inspired by what you've been able to accomplish in the bodybuilding front. Because I understand in the bodybuilding front, especially in Kenya, not many people are so active about it because of a number of reasons. Maybe your 2 cents, probably, as we are finishing up this conversation.
I think the main thing and my main reason for this conversation is it's a collective responsibility. Mm-hmm. It's extremely a collective responsibility. I cannot do it on my own. You, Nation, cannot do it on your own. Fran cannot do it on her own. It is a collective responsibility for both men and women. And if you're thinking about participating in a sport, either as a coach, either as an athlete, either in admin, or even just as a fan, and you want to push the conversation for women, when you hear women shouting about this thing, sometimes it's as simple as reading a post on social media, reposting a post on Instagram, giving your 2 cents on Facebook post. Sometimes that's easy as pushing women athletes to sponsors. If there's anything that you can do that you know is going to push female athletes forward and drive this conversation, I highly encourage that you take up that mantle and just help us out. This is actually us asking for that help. Help us out.
Okay. Fran, your closing statements on this conversation. How can people contribute more and be part of this valuable conversation?
Well, 2 comments. One is that women must stand up and be counted and speak out, be vocal, do their best and be the best that they can be to attract the attention. And secondly, to have men supporting the woman more, supporting the change. Behind every good man there is a woman, and the men must now bring those women to the front and support them to have equality. That's all we want. Nothing more, nothing less, gender equality.
Okay. Thank you so much, Fran and Mikhala. That was such a timely conversation. I believe this is not going to be the last of this conversation that you're going to be having. I'm hoping you're going to continue this conversation so that we change, because at the end of the day, change begins with you and me. And as Mikhala has said, each and every one of us has a part to play in this conversation. Well, that's all the time that we had here. Looking forward to seeing you guys in the next conversation that you're going to be having on Metropole Sports Center.